The waiter looked straight at me and quietly removed the plate from my table. "I'm sorry, ma'am," he whispered. "This table is reserved for paying guests." What he didn't know was that the restaurant he was standing in belonged to me. My name is Vanessa Carter. I'm a 42-year-old black woman from Atlanta, Georgia. Most people who meet me see a quiet woman who prefers tea over coffee and books over parties. But they don't see the years. The years I spent building something people said I couldn't. 10 years ago, I started a small food business out of my grandmother's kitchen. Just me, a borrowed stove, and recipes passed down through generations. Slowly it grew. Catering jobs, pop-up dinners, private events. Until one day, I finally did it. I bought a restaurant, a beautiful modern place in downtown Atlanta called Magnolia and Pine. But here's the thing. I rarely told people I was the owner. I liked watching people first. You learn a lot about someone when they don't know who you are. And on that quiet Thursday evening, I was about to learn something unforgettable. I walked into Magnolia and Pine around 6:30 p.m. The restaurant was glowing with warm lights. Jazz music floated through the room. It looked perfect, exactly how I imagined it when I first signed the lease. I took a seat at a corner table near the window. No one recognized me, which wasn't unusual. I didn't come in often, and when I did, I preferred blending in. A young waitress approached. She smiled politely, but her eyes scanned me quickly. "Can I help you?" she asked. I nodded. "I'd like the grilled salmon and a glass of sparkling water." She scribbled something on her notepad. Then she hesitated. Are you waiting for someone?" I blinked. "No. Just dinner." Her smile tightened. "Okay." She walked away slowly. A few minutes later, two well-dressed couples walked in. They were seated immediately. Menus. Water. Bread. Meanwhile, I was still sitting there. 10 minutes passed. 15. Finally, the same waitress returned. "Sorry for the delay," she said, placing a glass of water down. But something in her tone felt distant, uncomfortable. When my salmon finally arrived, I barely had time to pick up my fork before another man approached my table. He looked like the floor manager. Tall, nervous energy, and suddenly very serious. "Ma'am," he said quietly. "Yes." He leaned closer. "This table is reserved for dinner guests." I stared at him. "I am a dinner guest." He cleared his throat. "Well, usually guests who dine here order more than just water." For a moment I thought I misunderstood him. Then he added something that made the room feel colder. "You can order takeout at the front." My chest tightened. Not because of the words, because of the assumption behind them. Around me, people were eating, laughing, sipping wine. No one else was being questioned. Just me. I slowly placed my fork down. "I ordered the salmon," I said calmly. The manager glanced at the plate like he hadn't noticed it before. "Oh." But instead of apologizing, he did something even worse. He reached down and picked up the plate. "I'm sorry, ma'am," he said stiffly. "This table is reserved." My stomach dropped. The entire restaurant had gone quiet. People were staring now. And suddenly I felt something I hadn't felt in years. That familiar sting. The one black women know too well. The silent message. "You don't belong here." For a moment, I thought about leaving, walking out, not making a scene. But then I remembered my grandmother. She used to say, "Baby, if you shrink yourself, the world will gladly make you disappear." So instead, I stood up. "Before you take another step," I said quietly, "I need you to call the owner." The manager frowned. "The owner isn't here tonight." I held his gaze. "Yes," I said softly. "She is." The room froze. The manager blinked like he had misheard me. "I'm sorry." I reached into my purse and slowly pulled out a small leather card holder. Inside it was a black and gold business card. Vanessa Carter, owner. Magnolia and Pine. His face drained of color. The waitress covered her mouth. Someone at another table whispered, "You're the owner?" I nodded. "I bought this restaurant 2 years ago," I said calmly. "I built the menu. I hired the executive chef. And I approved every piece of furniture in this room." The manager looked like he might collapse. I didn't know." "That's the problem," I said gently. "You didn't ask." Silence wrapped around the restaurant. Then something unexpected happened. One of the customers at the next table stood up. A middle-aged white woman. She looked directly at the manager. "I watched that entire thing," she said firmly. "And it was unacceptable." Another man nodded. "She was treated differently the moment she walked in." Now everyone was watching. The manager slowly placed the plate back down on the table. His hands were shaking. "I'm deeply sorry, Miss Carter. But the moment wasn't about embarrassment. It was about truth. You know what hurts the most?" I said quietly. "It's not the mistake. It's how easy it was for you to assume I didn't belong." I sat back down at the table. The room was still silent. Then the chef stepped out of the kitchen. He had heard everything. Without a word, he placed a fresh plate of salmon in front of me. Perfectly prepared. "Dinner is on the house tonight," he said softly. I smiled. "I appreciate that, but I'd rather pay." The restaurant slowly returned to life. But something had changed. People were looking at me differently now. Not with suspicion. With respect. And as I finally took my first bite of salmon, I thought about something powerful. Sometimes the world decides who you are before you even open your mouth. But dignity doesn't come from titles or business cards. It comes from standing tall, even when someone tries to make you feel small. And that night, Magnolia and Pine learned something important. The woman they almost asked to leave was the reason the doors were open.
If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Because respect should never depend on assumptions. And remember, sometimes the quietest person in the room is the one who built the whole place. This is the Black Diaries. If you believe in stories about dignity, justice, and truth, don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and tell us in the comments. Have you ever experienced a moment where someone judged you too quickly?